Gimel MarCheshvan, Samech Vav, page Shin Samech.
Gimel MarCheshvan, de Yotza der Heilige Ruzen. Yotza der Heilige Ruzen, Gimel MarCheshvan. Right, so we saw the difference between the Eved Ne'eman and the Eved HaPoshut. And we saw that the devotion of the Eved Ne'eman is mitzad the Goydel HaSoger that he has in the Gadlus of the Odain and in the Goydel Tainu that he has from the knowledge that he is Mo'era and Goyra Menachas Ruach Amitias to the Odain Alidei Avidosri. Evamere, the Tainu that he has is Emes. It's based on the Nachas Ruach of the Odain. But it's how he is pleased with the fact that he is Misane, and he's Someach, as you might say. The Simcha Bezeh that the Odin has Tainu V'Nachas Ruach. And that's what we saw. Whenever we learned the Maskona, Beneged to the Eved Ne'eman is that ultimately and Sof he is a Matzias in other words, despite the tremendous devotion that he has to Adonai, he's a Matzias b'fnei atzmai. Af shekol inyonei b'chaim is Avedas ha'odin, and his devotion is unquestionable, and it's in Haim Madrega until he's Mishabeach, we saw he's Mashbiach. He causes profit and improvement in all the yonim of the Odain, and that causes a tremendous nachas to the Odain. The simcha of the Eved Ne'eman comes from that nachas. That's the ikeh. In other words, he's not a Matzias b'fnei atzmai in the sense that he thinks about himself. In other words, it's not shot that Simchose is in the fact that he's able to be involved in Misasi, in such inyonim nailim u'gevoyim. That's not his Simcha. His Simcha is mitzad the Nachas Ruach and the Simcha of the other. But Sof, he has Simcha from the fact that the other has Nachas Ruach the Simcha. Shaken, we saw the union of the Eved Poshut. The Inyoni is that he is not a Matzias, the Atzmai cloud, because the Yesod of his whole Aveda is Achvarach Mitzad Kabbalah Seo of the Odain and Achvarach Mitzad devotion. So whenever he does anything for the Odain, then he doesn't do it Mitzad Atzmai, without any motivation. On the contrary, we even saw a diktuk Yonov from the other Poshet that is a philaneged Ratzeinoi B'emes, the whole Inif and the Aveda. Nimtzah that when he does any prat, Avidosei, for the sake of the other, and then he does it, even just Mavatal, his own Matzias, the Gamma. Which means that the Kabbalah Sel Malchus Shamayim, where the Eved Poshit is Ainin, which is Beetle Matziusei, Mikor Vakor. He has no Matzias, the Atzmai at all. And therefore he's not even, how do you call Ma'iz Bi'atzmai, he doesn't even have the what you might call the broadness and the brazenness to think in himself that he's being Goyra Menachas Ruach. to the Odin, or his whole concern is to carry out what he's supposed to do, and to do what the Odin told him, and to do it b'shleimus aki efsharius v'chulu. Mitzad the Kabbalah says on the oil of the Odin Sha'ala. Nimtza that asks himself the Shaila, where does he have any tainug b'avidos? So we saw, we went along in the whole Inin, at the Hemshech, at the Maima, that the tainug and the simcha that there is by the Eved Poshut, this is mitzad the tainug with simcha of the Odin Be'atzmi. In other words, it's not that he has simcha from the fact that the Odin has simcha. No, he doesn't have any simcha Be'atzmi Klav. That what there is meir Be'avidosei a simcha and a tainug, but that's a koyach hatmidius. Otherwise, he would just he would freeze up the Eved Neman. It would be shaif in the Mamshi. I'm sorry, the Eved Poshut. He does meir Be'avidosei hu the tainug and the simcha of the Odin. But in the Nimshal, that means that Kavioho, the simcha Shalamayla is his simcha. It's a meir Milamaila in Avidosei hu. And that's the Ika difference between the Eved Neman and the Eved Poshut. That's the Ika called Inon. Because in them, come to say there are two Nakudas. Aleph, that the Eved Neman in Yoni is what Sof Kosof. He's a Machias, the Kedusha, a Machias Gedola, the Kedusha. It's not a Machias in a negative sense, but he's a Machias Be'atzmei. Mashagin, the Eved Poshut is Einu B'Pins Machias Be'atzmei. And base is that the experience of the Aveda, what you might call the Teitzoah, which comes from the Aveda, the Hainu, the Inyan HaSimcha, or the Nachas Ruach, and the Koyach to be Mamshit Aveda, is also different in the Eved Neman that comes from Mitzad Atzmei. So he himself is a motivated individual, and therefore he keeps going, and he's margish, and he's literally marviach, as you might say, betoich. He has a profit and a revach in himself at the yin and at the simcha, albeit beiketz mitzad the simcha shalamayla. The Eved Poshut, he has no yin in the atzmei klal afila in the regishu aveda. What does it yin at simcha? No, his simcha is only mitzad the simcha shalamayla. Therefore, it comes out of his hair that he doesn't have, it's not shy by him, any Indian of what you might call a reward or a revach in his Aveda. Therefore, we were medactic, it's about him that's written, the Ika loy to you, Kavodim, Amashamshim, Mesorav, Almanas, the Kabel Pras, Ela to you, Kavodim, Amashamshim, Mesorav, Shalel Manas, the Kabel Pras. In other words, by him it's not oila ala machshava, the Indian from Prague. There should be any Indian kill which is his or magia loy. And on the contrary, if there's any Indian from Prague, then kol masha koine eved konarab. He says if there's any Indian which is shy kilo atoitzoa, he's afraid, then that belongs to the other, and that doesn't belong to him. And that's B'chol ha'inyanim and b'chol ha'matreiges, until we saw Bizafila, the Indian from Indian Ruchnish Avavidosa, the Indian Asimcha, it's also Shachach V'rach Le'ha'odeh. So that's where we were, Be'erach, those were the maskonas that we reached in the Indian of the difference between the two Aved. So therefore, the what you might call the madrega of his Aveda Benegeh to what it achieves, Kavioho Lamaila, is also that his Aveda reaches, as we might call in the Indian, an Atzmus Mamish Lamaila, because since Kosof it's only for the sake of the order in Kipshuter. Therefore, it's Oila or Magia, and mamish in the madreges of the Eberste and Oirois Ha'elyonim, Adel Maila Mikol HaGiluim, and Maila Mikol what you might call Hamshoches, or the madreges of the air, which are Oimetla Himoshe, and the Pu'ula of his Aveda, or the reaching of his Aveda Lamaila, is mamish in Atzmas, say. The Eved Ne'eman, despite all the tremendous milas in his Aveda, he reaches only the Oides V'ge Giluim Haraya Lamaila. In other words, there's certain Madregas Lamaila which have already been nimshach Atzmas in a form of what we call Oides, albeit in that group of many Madregas, but they're only a different Oides, not the Atzmas Mam. And that's the Hamshocha Alidei, the way that the Eved Ne'eman. The Eved Pashut, then mitzad the fact that he has no Matthias whatsoever. His whole Aved is in an even what he's not there really. His whole union is only to be just as we'll see as we go along, a form of a yad of the ordering bilad. Therefore, he literally works mitzad the atzmas of the order. He's what you might call like a aver of the order atzma. Therefore, avidose is also mitzad the in and and that's basically where we were holding. I think in the Eved Ne'eman, and therefore we have to say that in Nefesh it's also the same. That he reaches the inif and giluim lamaila, because his union is also still somehow or another connected with koichos of the nefesh, with giluim of the nefesh. The Eved Pashut in Yonah is what he's completely and utterly devoted beyond even the giluim of the nefesh. It's only the etzem of his nefesh which is makusha, even though but giluim he doesn't really. He would claim that he doesn't really know what really goes on in the pnimis advarim. His whole union is only to serve the order. But we have to say that touches into the very essence of the order, and in the very essence of the nishon. So that's basically where we're holding on MarCheshvan Samech. As I remember, and we're going to finish off this mimer, and then we'll decide what to do further. So therefore says the Rebbe and V'chol Zeh. And all of this, that's referring to all of the inyonim that we described in the Eved Pashut, mikoyach atzmei davka. But this is all achieved by the Eved Pashut himself. In other words, it's all his own doing, you might call it. Mikoyach atzmei davka. She'ein lo yisiyuya al zeh mi'agilui oirois benafshei ukahai gavna. Im asher ba'atzmei kibul alav oil malchus yizborach v'nosan u'mosar es atzmei lavidosa yizborach ve'efen hanasino hu bebitul kol atzmusei she'ein loi mohus u'matzias le'atzmei klau. And the manner of the giving of himself is in the form of a beautiful cancellation of his whole essence, his whole being. He doesn't have anything left over for himself, not his whole essence, or anything to do with his being as an existing entity for himself at all. Ki'im ze kol mohusei laved. Where are we? Masha be'atzmei kibul alav malchus yizborach v'nosan u'mosar es atzmei lavidosa yizborach. And he took upon himself to give himself, and to mosar means to completely give yourself over. Masira in the Gemara is where you take a thing and give it into another reshus. That's called in Yiddish opgeben. That means you completely take it from your reshus into another reshus. Remember, he's given himself and he's put away his whole entity into another reshus. Mosa esach me lavidosa yizborach. V'oifan hanasina hu bebitul kol atzmuzeh. And the manner of that nasina is with complete cancellation of his whole self. She'ein le'mahu samatzias le'atzmei klal. Ki im ze kol mosei la'aved l'tzerich adoinei. Adoin koil yizbach. His whole union is only to do that which is the necessity of the Odein HaKoil, meaning the Eivishter. Kol ma shemutel alav mi'ita yizborach la'aseis ulakayim. And that oifen of the Nasina has literally got no conditions in it. There's no limitations. There's no hagbolas, as you might call it. There's no a point where we say up to here and no further. But it's in the oifen of kol ma shemutel alav mi'ita, anything that the Eibishter will place upon him. Mi'ita meaning from the Eibishter, blessed be he, la'aseis ulakayim. To do and l'kayim. What la'aseis ulakayim mean basically the same thing. What's going on with the word l'kayim has got itself two inyanim. It means not only to do, but it means to be continuous in your doing. L'kayim means that there's a key to what you do, meaning that he takes upon himself that whatever he does for the Eibishter will not only be now done, but it'll be a permanent, what you might call, commitment. La'aseis ulakayim, mikan ula haba, without any limitation. Cloud. So here we see, and we have to say that that's moving from what we've learned up to now in the Indian of the Eved Pasha. That since ultimately, if you were to really ask him, tzad the giluim shebeneves, tzad afilu rutzayino, but rotzen is also a koyach shebeneves, but it's a koyach makifi, a koyach atzmi in the nefesh. If you were to ask him, what would you really want to be doing this? Is this what you as an entity really want to do? He would say no, or he would say not necessarily. Which means that when he does do it, and he does with the most ultimate perfection, then we have to say that at every point and every prat along the line, it's only being done not because of him. He's doing it mitzad the rotzen, which means that at every moment, if you measure why is this particular act being carried out on his part, it's only mitzad the rotzen of the Eibishter. Which means that at every second in what he's doing is meir the rotzen of the Odein Koil, what that means the Eibishter, in the form of an Odein, in the form of a Balabas, that he has there's no question whatsoever about the etzem avodah. Avamer, at every step of his avodah, it's only being done mitzad the Odein, mitzad the rotzen ha'atzmi of the Odein. Which means that he's devoted even deeper than his own will. But that's the most profound devotion that we can imagine. A mensch is devoted in a way that there's no shilas or nothing is asked in him. I feel, what do you want? What is it that interests you? What do you find rewarding? That's not the cloud of the shaila. The shaila is, what does the balabas want? What does the balabas? What does the Odein Koil? Mahu rotzeh. Say kol mashe oile l'shaila etzlo. By him there's no other shailas whatsoever. Well, that means that at every moment there's like two things happening. The most amazing struggle that he's given himself away completely, and yet at that moment is meir only the rotzen of the Odein, nothing else. What actually happens, Berega Ahu, is only the rotzen of the Odein. Why? Because he doesn't have anything for it himself, which means that his whole Matthias is not here. He doesn't have any Matthias, B'techador, cloud. And that's what we're going to see as we go along. He becomes almost like a drivable as an aver of the Odein. I think in the Eved Ne'eman, a guy who's got a tremendous knowledge and koch and in Yiddishkeit, he brennt and he kocht and he wants to do everything. If you ask him, what would you really want to be doing, he would say, oh, only this. He has nothing else in life, cloud. But that's a tremendous achievement. Nobody's belittling it. And it's a tremendous geschmack. And in order to have that geschmack, you've got to give away all the other geschmacks in life. This is movement. He has to give away all other routines and all other tanugim in order to have that time. But he is a motivated individual. He's got all sorts of inyanim which are pouring him into him the whole time, which he's being massing and easing, and that's flaming the motivation to go further and further. And so in the Hanami, his concern also is with the how do you call it, the household kavyochel of the order. That's his only concern. Over there's he and the order, and there's his concern and the order. On the audience concern. The Eved Pashut is not like that. He doesn't have anything in the whole game. Therefore, when he's there, it's only the will of the audience. He's not really there. You're not in touch of it. It's only the will of the audience. And remember, the fact that he does it, means that he does it only mitzvah the audience. And therefore, that's what the Rebbe means, that he's taking himself. B'kol Metziusay, in a form of Nasina, but that cancels his whole very being. It's a beetle kol atzmusay. It's a cancellation of his whole being. And therefore, due to that fact, however dazeh, or this ever pashut, b'tiv avidosei, harehu matzliach gam kein ladeinoi. Lahamshi teisavas brocha b'chol hein beisa. V'yadarabba, mamshi teisavas naila ba'ein arech lamshachas ho'eved anerma. In the earlier drushim in Pasha Achrei, Pasha Riyeh, Achrei Avay Alachem Telechu, and in the drush Eila Hadvarim, the Rebbe is over there that the Eved Naaman, due to his devotion and due to his knowledge, and he can be compared Lamata to an Eved, what he does very, very important malachas and very important tasks in the household of the Odin, what they're negaya to the, what you might call the panosa and the oisha, the richness of the development of the Odin's nechosim, how they call it nechosim, his properties and his ownership. Since he knows all of the inyanim of his shtausas, if we take it in pnimisai, he's like somebody who knows all the business and all the ways to deal with things that the Odin places in his hands, certain inyanim, and he literally invests them, as you might say. He does with them all sorts of elevated and profitable inyanim, what they bring a feedback into the household of the Odin in a way that there's what you call a continuous addition into the household of the Odin, but that causes the Odin a great deal of satisfaction. It causes the master of the house a great deal of satisfaction. The diuk is that the master, he doesn't put anything into that himself. He just sits back, and the Eved Naaman does it all. The Eved Naaman does it all for him. And to a certain extent, these inyanim, what the Eved Naaman receives, are also inyanim which they've been there. I mean, they're all there in the Seder Hishtaushelis. Ein behem chidush mitzad atzmo. They're all just different oifanim and elokus and inyanim in knowledge of elokus v'chulu. And I feel what he does when he's mekayim mitzvahs, all those things what the Eibush are meant to be nimshach alidei mitzvahs. Just that since it's in a oifen from riboy, and so of course it's connected with the inyan for rotzen Hashem in the kiyum atera mitzvahs. There's a certain what we call profit in all the kaviyot. The Eibush's will is carried out, and to a certain extent to say what you might call a toisefes kilo elikus alitea order b'vadai. That's a tremendous what you might call a step forward in the but it's not ultimately the inyan from dira b'taftoin. First of all, because this person, he's busy with dvarim nailim and pnimim v'atzmiyim, and his whole avodah began at a certain point where he's no longer really shayach to tachtoinim. He's no longer really nimtza b'toich inyan atachtoin. No, he's mufshat inyan atachtoin. And even though he does the mitzvahs in gashmiyas like everybody has to, otherwise it's not a mitzvah. He's concerned with the kavanah of the mitzvah, the in and how it is, and what he's being megala or mamshik for the order and other day mitzvahs. And therefore, even though there's a prophet in the house of the order and a tremendous prophet, nonetheless it's to use the expression, it's a giluyim type of prophet. It's you know what they have to do with the relation, and the order's nachashur, and that is a satisfaction, but it's like if we can imagine that you have very devoted servants or people that they look after your inyanim, and you just sit back and see that the inyanim come in, then you have from that a tremendous satisfaction. But there's always a certain lacking in that. It's not really the ordain's pu'ula. He didn't do anything in that. It was all just brought for him, what you might call it min hamucha. So we're going to see that even by a odom, what you could kind of, well, the odom says some mentioned he doesn't want to do anything anyway. That's why he's a odom. Otherwise, if he wanted to be dafki misasik, he wouldn't be a odom. He would be a worker, or it'd be what they call one of the boys, one of the guys, etc. And the fact that these are odom is a nachanamik of a sof. There's a inyan in every being, kavioho. There's a inyan to be involved in a way that you see, kavioho, ma'aseh yadelcha. You might say, well, that's not shot by the Eibush, ma'aseh yadelcha. Oh, yes, it is. And that's what we see, that the two psukim. There's one pasuk that said, Yismach Yisrael be'oisav, that the Eden, they're happy with their maker, they have simcha in their maker. And then there's another passage which says Yismach Havaya be b'ma'asav, that the Eibush has simcha in his kaviyach, in his action. In other words, that there's a inyan that kaviyach, the Eibush also, he has a simcha dafkim in what he did kaviyach. What's that kimat? Yes, Yismach Havaya b'ma'asav. And that inyan that there's a simcha mamish in his own action, kaviyach, well, that's not perfected by the Eved Ne'eman, because the Eved Ne'eman brings everything into the order in the form of profit from things which were already there. In other words, that the order just sits back and he sees that brought in, as it were. So ultimately there must be a certain pagam in the tainug of the order, and that's what we're going to see, that even Odin, Sof, he also needs, for Shleimusa, he needs to have a certain tainug, things that he did, that's kilu in Yonehu. And the Eved Ne'eman saves him all the way. And the Eved Ne'eman brings him all the unbelievable profit of a Sof. There's a very delicate chisaron b'inyan zeh. So that's what we're now going to see, that this Eved Ne'eman, he doubtless brings into the household a great deal of profit. But the Eved Pashut, by devoting himself absolutely beyond anything of his own, and without really concerning himself what happens through what he does, only that he does the rotzen of the Odin, he also causes a profit in the Odin. So we're going to see the question is that what happens with the profits that he causes, because of his bittul kol mahusay to the Odin, then the Odin sees that kilo as he did it. It's kilo like he's so much part of the Odin that it's almost that the Odin is able to identify his having achieved certain things with the achievement of the Eved Posher. And that's what he says now. That the Eved Azeh, meaning the Eved Posher, through the benefit of his Aveda, he also brings Hatzlacha. El Hamshik Teisvus Brocha, to bring extra blessing, Bechol Hein Beise, in all the ownership of his household. For Adarabba, and more than that, on the contrary, Hu Mamshik Teisvus Naila, he brings down a additional elevated oil Ba'ain Aroich Lam Shochas Eved Anema. He's ein Aroich, and he's all elevated to the Eved Nema. And yet, nonetheless, we say that the bracha he brings into the household of the Odin is ein Aroich, like what the Eved Nema brings. So what's the pshat? How can that possibly be? I mean, he deals with simple inyanim also compared to the Eved Nema. The Eved Nema deals with very high inyanim, with what you might call the Wall Street of the Odin. He deals with all the difficult inyanim which the Odin does himself with that lachir of the cloud. Because of the pshat that al yidei his aveda he brings oil teisvus into the household or to the inyan of the Odin, ein aroich to the amshocha of the Eved Nema. The ikka hahefer shu. So the ikka svara and the ikka difference, and that is the kol amshochas beteisvus eirish Eved Nema mamshich hakol hu b'chinas hagiluim levad. The Besher Shelshon, who beginnen ze een safe, Shabo, beginnen Shocha Vagilum. Aval, Masha Eved Haposhut Matsliak Babes Adinoi, who Shemamshi, Mipkinas Atzmus Mami. Shal Yode Nishlama Kavona Hamitias, the Nesava Hakodish Baruch, Oliyas Loi, Leatzmuso is Barach. Dira betachtoin. In other words, at the Eved Ne'eman, Emes, he's Megala, tremendous inyanim. But he doesn't reach the ultimate quest, as you might call it, the ultimate shleimus and the ultimate nekuda, atzmius, adarotzen shalamayla. And he's Megala also to the oiros, and we'll see as we go along. Maybe we suggest it's the union of Amshocha Seiras in Oilam Asalyonim, for example, Gilui Oilas Nailim in Oilam Atzilas, and those Oilas are Mislavish in the Kalim, and I feel in Oilam Asalyonim, which are nearer to Oilam Azeda and Oilam Atzilas. Of a so-called it's a Gilui of Oilos, which are Shayak somehow to Kalim, they're Shayak to what we call Seidah Hishtaushat. Obviously, this Eved Poshut, then he's Mamshich, from a level which is completely beyond oiros, which are shayat to kelim or shayat to inyone hishtaushilus. No, there the inyan from atzmus mame, atzmus is bara, and he brings that down lamata mata into the olam aki tachtoi. That's the inyan of nishlama hakavona ha'amitiyah. Now, all things that have got to do with Gila Elakus HaKavona, they're all with the purpose, and they're all part of the Abish's plan. But the Kavona Amiti is the ultimate Kavona. And the Emes Kavona is Nisave HaKodesh Baruch Hu Liyos Loyli Atzmusa is Barak Dira Petach Toinim. Well, it's one on the famous diuk is there, that the when we say Dira Petach Toinim, then the inyan for Adira is where the mensch biatzmusa finds himself. If we take in the marshal, that Adira is an area where the mensch goes biatzmusa, and on the contrary, that's where he finds himself with all what you might call the pshitas of his atzmus and the simplicity of his atzmus. That when he's dafki in his household, that's when he does all of his private inyanim, all those inyanim which shaykh liatzmusa. And afar. Dira b'taktoini means the Eibush of Mamish K'moshuhu. He should be found in the Elam HaTachtoin with the other pshat in Dira. With the other pshat in Dira is that's a place where you can be with all the Atzmus, where you do able to reveal itself with all the Atzmus. That's a mokim haraui lecha. It's fit and proper for you, and it's able to contain you. That's those two nakudas. One, that the atzmus of the door is there, and half of that because it's a mokim maro uiloi, Well, that comes about to the weight of this Eved portion. He brings the ultimate shleimus of the inyan von Dira B'Tachtoin. And that's the inyan von Nisave HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Amitius HaTaiva, Liya Yisrael Atzmus is Barak Dira B'Tachtoin, and it's well known. The other diuk is there, that Nisave is a Taiva. And it's one of the famous lina we saw right at the beginning of the Hemshech, where the Rebbe brought the lesson of the Alter Rebbe, of a Taiva is kain kashia, that you can't ask any questions of a Taiva. Somebody has a Taiva, that's how they call it, which is part of his being that he himself can't explain. A Taiva. The inyan for Dira, but Tatainim is a inyan atzmi, rotzen, shaloi, al pitam vadas cloud. It's like moving along a cloud, pitam vadas. Why the Eibishter wanted that? That's a inyan for Nisave, it's a Taiva, kaviyochem mitzad the Amitis Atzma. The Eved Poshet can reach all of those three nekudas, as you might call them. It's mitzad the very Taiva Atzmis of the Eibishter. And it's daf kilamata b'tachtoinim, and it's daf, even that those tachtoinim are ru'uin the atzmusay, well, that's through somebody that kol inyone is devoted to the atzmus. Either for he doesn't have any kavanas. A daf kali they say he reaches the atzmus. Mamishav that the atzmus is but dira b'tachtoinim. Well, I mean, it's a pilidika inyan. It's ultimately the big lights man, what he's the Eved man, he doesn't actually make the Dira B'Tachtoin. You might say, what does he make him? What? MarCheshvan Bavidose. Well, that's what we see, that there's a necessity on the way down for all sorts of oiroids, because they, as it were, light up and make the way, and they bring about all sorts of hamshochas, which later make the Dira B'Tachtoin even more, what you might call ornamented, and even more beautiful. That's toisefes in the inyan and the Dira B'Tachtoin. But first of all, their inyan is to be nimshach b'inyanim l'mayla me'adira. And it's later, dafka alidei, the fact that the Eved Poshet, he established the whole inyan of the Dira lamata, then those inyanim are nimshachim. And nimcha that they're only inyanim bein atzmas li'adira, and they're like the inyanim Chashuvim, or they're emchoyim, they're like in the middle. They're like things which are only there to make things better and more, what you might call more beautiful and more decorated. Each of us there. But that's an establishment of the Dira, that's the Eved Poshet. Velule Avidose, at the Eved Poshet, it wouldn't really have an ultimate time, the Aveda, the Eved Nema. And if he said that the Eved Poshet, he's the Yesod HaKol. And therefore it's written in the Mishnah, like we said, that the basic Hoirah from the Tanoim, Harushonim, was that you have to be a Eved, number one, and zweitens is you have to be Shalei Al-Manas L'Kavul Pras. But that's and as we were Mavaya, it's brought down over there, Bartanur, and the place of the Yontif. Now the great Meforshim in the Mishnah, that there were certain people couldn't be Makabel. This is what's up to serve without any ultimate reward. What? Vikon does that. The Eibishter is as if it doesn't function that way. And there was, until even some of the Beitusim and the others, that they were breakers, but that Maima of the Mishnah. And they said, how you talking? That they should be Eved Al-Manas Shalei L'Kavul Pras. There's even more. There was some who said that the pshat is you have to be Eved Al-Manas Shalei L'Kavul. It should be, the condition should be not to be Mekavul Klal. Some of the authorities, but Asman, they said that that's the Mailam, that's overdone. We come in China and it's all Vinyon. And that's the far. Well, the Eved Poshet is a tremendously elevated union between Pnimis Advorim, that a man should not know and not even care heck what it is that he has for union, only the rotzen of the order. That makes the Dira B'Tachtoin. That's the Nakuda. Atzmi is what brings to the inyan from the dira lamata. And all the other inyanim are like what you might call icing on the cake. The all inyanim which inyanim is liyafis or the hamshik inyanim yofim beteich etzem adira. I mean that's ultimate what you might call twitch.
In order to get to the level of the Pashut, you have to first go through being Eved Nama?
Not necessarily. Because it would appear that the Eved Pashut is not somebody that he was an Eved Nama and then he decided to be an Eved Pashut. You follow? Because that's Amnamu Lai Yesh Kelem Anoshim, that they went through the whole Inyan of an Eved Nama and then they decided that really they had to be Mishtadl, to be Avodim Pshutim. That's one on the famous mime from Rabbi Paricha, when he was a Goran Otzim. Bein Benigla, Bein Bechassidus, Bein Benigla, Bein Kabbalah, Chassidus. And he's one of the few Chassidim that ever said Maimonim of their own, with the ganze Arichas Advarim, Rabbi Paricha. So he was once asked, what is his whole ambition? What does he see? Because Avidose, Anifloa, that he said his whole aim is to become an Ish Pasha. I think I've told you guys about it. He said that the ganze Tatas from saying ganze Aveda is that he should become a Ish Pasha. And so doubtless he achieved it. I mean, Yesh Lema, that at one point or another he was much clear with that. So that's a very rare case of somebody who was an Eved Neman and eventually decided that he has to give it away and become an Eved Pashut. But the Eved Pashut, he's not someone who's been through the Eved Neman and he's dropped it off, he's come back to an Eved Pashut. He's Mulachatchila, as I yid with his whole in, and it's just absolute devotion. Believe he holds that the Eved Pashut is kilo of the what you might call the opinion, if we can put it that way, if it's hard to say he has opinion. He's kilo of the impression that to go looking Mulachatchila in Yonim, even Giluim, Nailim, in the mitzvahs, doesn't Mulachatchila not your, that's not his in, he knows that the whole in the mitzvah is Kabbalah's oil, rotten, Matave. So there was the Rebbe now, a very fascinating Chiddush. So now says the Rebbe Lafisek, that his whole Indian and the Ikya achievement of Nisave HaKadosh Baruch Hu Liyos Le'Dira Le'Atzmusei B'Taktoi Nemesu Li'Eved Pashut ובזה יובן גם כן מה שנזכרו ליל דיבר מסחר הדברים. במשל דאבידס העבד הפשוט, הרי זה כמו שהעודן בעצמי עובד ליש, הרי זה כמו שהעודן בעצמי עובד. ליש כל מהוסי הוא רק לעבד לעדינוי, והרי הוא כלכושי הוא קניין כספי. אם כן מה שהוא עובד, הרי זה אצל העודן כאילו הוא בעצמי עובד ומרוויח על ידי שוירוי וכהי גבנה. So the Rebbe says, like we pointed out, we now go over to the Odin for a moment. We move our beam to the Odin. And the Odin is also, so of course, what's his part in the whole Inyan? Apart from the Nachashut that he has, that he's gained some sort of Revach and Parnasa and Bracha, Bebeisai. So the Rebbe said he also, as it were, Kaviyohu, also needs to feel that he's done something, Kaviyohu. So how is that achieved? The beetle of the Eved Pashut is so immense, and so without any place for himself, that if we take it in the Moshel, and then we'll go to the Nimshal, that the Odain sees that as if he had done it himself. In other words, that since the beetle of the Eved Pashut is so complete to him, and he does it only for his sake and not having any in the activity of the matter himself, then he becomes like the shoyer of the other. He becomes like an inanimate thing. I mean, a shoyer is not completely inanimate. A shoyer is an ox. You're not completely inanimate, but upon him, when you get to the activity of the human in certain things that he uses, the shoyer, then the shoyer is just like a tool that carries out the Indian, as well known, the famous Maimah of the Gemara, Rabbi Yezer said, "Le'elam like korasi le'shoiri shoiri, ela korasi le'shoiri sodi." He said, "I never called my shoyer a shoyer. I called it my field." In other words, that the whole Indian of the shoyer is only to be bought to make him a field. Of the shoyer alone, the nishkamatzia cloud. I mean, shoyer is only like a haricot. And there's brought down over there a few such statements in the Gemara. And there's another one over there where one of the Tanoim said that the Elam like Karasi Ishti El Karasi Ishti Beis. He never called it his wife, he called it his house. The whole Indian of the Isha, the whole Indian is only to make the house. The whole Indian, it should be the Indian from ice, the cloud, the farm. It's interesting, certain of the greatest Polishes never referred to their wives as they used to call it the stool. To call their wives the house. Yeah. I heard it. By the Polisher, the good Yidden, the Polisher, how they call it, the Rebbe, by the Polisher. They don't say their wife, they say their stool. That's based on that Maimah Chazal. That the Isha is the house. The house. The same with the Indian, I'm not comparing them necessarily, the same with the Indian of the shoyer. The Indian of the shoyer is the field, not the shoyer, but the field. And therefore, that's what the Rebbe says here, that so great is the beetle of the Eved Pasha to the Odain, that the Odain doesn't really see him as he sees it, that's he's doing it, it's his Indian. And the Eved Pasha is like a shoyer or another inanimate, what you might call object, that's carried out the Ikatachlis, which is the Sodeh, and the what you might call the Reva that comes aliday the Sodeh. It follows the feast that there's another amazing achievement on the part of the Eved Ne'aman, that he is mitzad the tremendous beetle that he has to the Odain, that and he's just like the refush, he's like how they call it, part of the ownership, and he's like the Kenyan Kaspe, how they call it, he's like a purchased article of the Odain. Then Mashu Eved Harizeh Eitzel HaOdain Ki'ilu Hu Bi'atzmei Eved Umarviyah Halidei Shoyroy K'Hai. It's like as if he himself were working in the field through the shoyer, and he were bringing the revak which occurs here through this eved. Then the Odin sees that that's his own, as it were, action, his own achievement. Harizeh, and that is very sweet or very tasteful to the Odin. We said that the Eved Ne'aman, he does everything for the Odin, which things are already there. He takes all the gold and all the good things, and he makes them even more powerful, and more expensive, and more beautiful, and more so on and so on than they were. Yeah, so therefore the Odin sees all that as dvarim min hamuchan. That's all, Rebbe of when Eved Pasha achieves something, then he sees that kilu. The Odin identifies with that as if it were his own action, as it were. That causes him a very special type of tainuk, and therefore he uses the expression Yerav Loi Ma'id. So we take another step forward now, that the beetle of the Eved Pasha is so great that he becomes the action of the master. L'maynach Kimina L'mayla in the Nimshal. That's the question now. In the Moshel, we understand it's a very powerful step forward in the Moshel, a very amazing Ilui in the whole concept of the Moshel. But what can that be Lamaila? How's it tried to say that the Eibster Kilo as a sees in the act of a Yid Kilo that he did it? I mean, my nafkamina bezel, what's the Indian bezel Lamaila? So it says the Rebbe v'yesh leima the benim shal, because immediately the mind of the intelligent reader wants to know how does this work in the nimshal, in the Moshel. It's understandable. Ishlema the benim shal, in the compared thing that we're comparing it to, hu inin mashukosu laman tizkuru va'asisem es kol mitzvah soy. In other words, if you look in Parshas Tzitzis, what Parshas Tzitzis connected kol ha-mitzvahs as well now, the din from the Tzitzis, even in B'misparim, Rashi brings out the word Tzitzis. Yes, 200 600 and so forth. And then the Shmoyne Kishorim is 600 of them. Yeah, 600. And then the eight Chutim and the 5 Kishorim makes 13. Because even in the word Tzitzis there's a reference to the whole Sheish. Sheish Me'ez V'Shleishis Mitzvah. Amele, the whole Indian from Pasha Tzitzis is concerned with the Indian of Kol HaMitzvahs Kula. So you notice at the beginning, he says you have to see the mitzvahs and through them remember as Kol Mitzvahs Hashem, Mitzvahs Havaya. V'asisem Tzom, etc., etc., etc. Then at the end, he says, Laman Tizkuru, you should remember Asisem is Kol Mitzvah Soy. Ve'isem Kedoshim Lele. If you look in the Siddur, you'll see that's what's written. He begins with that the mitzvahs the tzitzis are an arousal and a remembrance of Kol Mitzvahs Hashem, and then he finishes by saying that through that inyan of the remembrance of the mitzvahs, the pula and the mitzvahs, how they are mitzvah the tzitzis, you come to a inyan mitzvah soy, my mitzvah, not mitzvahs Hashem, but they're my mitzvah. We have to suggest that Kaviyachol, the Eibster B'atzmusai, is talking on two levels within that passage of Tzitzit. And on the one hand he says that there's called mitzvahs havaya, in other words there are mitzvahs where nimshuk mitzad shmi, mitzad the inim for name, which is Shem havaya, and there are mitzvahs that they come down and they're nimshuk, mitzkale, through the oasis of shmi, and through the inyan of what shmi is. And they're called mitzvahs shmi, mitzvahs Hashem. And then there's an inyan that alidei, the perfection, and coming to the Nakuda Pinimis, in that inyan you arrive at Kol Mitzvah Soy, the mitzvahs that I are mamish, my mitzvah. So my Hebdo Ben Zelazeh. So that's what the Rebbe is going to say. That the inyan that they have at Ne'eman, and those who are into it, mitzvah the Giluyim, and those who are into it, mitzvah appreciation, etc., etc., that they reach the mitzvahs, how the mishkala alidei madregas lamaila, but those madregas are connected with the oasis of the Shem Havaya, the oasis of the Eibster's name, and they have be'ikah to do with the kavanas of the mitzvahs. The people who are oisik in kavanas and in hoiche inyonim and keeping the mitzvahs. Be'ilu mitzvah is soy, and the mitzvahs are mamish mushush in the Atzmus, because the union of the Shem Havaya is only Hashem. That's only a Gilui Ori Seder, a Giluyim of the mitzvahs. Over the mitzvahs that I am, Mamish Mitzad Atzmusay, I call my mitzvahs Kavion. Mitzvah Soy. Oh, he said the only way he can get to that is just to be a Poshet of Eved. And Eved Poshet, on the day which you do purely Mitzad Kabbalah self, then you reach the way he has the mitzvahs Mamish Biatzmusay Mamish. That's the inyan of the Eved Pashut. He reaches the mitzvah, Araya mitzvah soy. V'im kein v'yesh leima da benim shal v'hu inyan mashakosef aman tizku atzisem es kol mitzvah soy. Dinay yesh mitzvahs havaya or mitzvah soy. The two levels, the mitzvahs are called mitzvahs Hashem and my mitzvah. Pirish mitzvahs havaya Hainu ha-mitzvahs k'mo she'hein b'seid ha'ishtalshelus. Yeah, the way they come into now when we're talking here about Seid Ishtal, we don't mean in the lower madrigas, we mean how they are, b'sherish of the Shem Havaya, which is in Olam HaAtzilus, afil Olam Ha'olam HaAtzilus. Aber toward the Indian from the Eiras after the Tzimtzum, and after the Gilu of Akkar, they already shot to the Seder, at the Giluim in Ishtalshelus, Eiras O'Elyoinim. Ki do the Kol HaMitzvahs Tluyim B'David Oisias Shem Havaya. That's one on that all the mitzvahs are somehow or another tluyim, depend on the hanging literally in the Abba Oisius of the Shem Havaya. And like it's brought down in the Zohar Kodesh. The Zohar Kodesh says that all the mitzvahs literally hang on the Abba Oisius of the Shem Havaya, like grapes hanging clusters. In other words, that each us has got clusters of mitzvahs that hang onto it. And they all got indirectly or directly, they go to that particular os in the Shem Havaya, and then others go to the K, and others go to the Vav, and others go to the K Taptoina, v'chulu. And here we bring a very famous example, which you guys are all familiar with. So he says, Shem Havaya, k'moi kriya shma, b'ois yud, the Shem Havaya, or tefillin b'ois K, the K Elyoina, shai to the Indian from tefillin. High governor, and similar to the. Now, what I said is, you guys are all familiar with it. I don't know if you guys all get that far when you're saying Christmas Shachamita, but you know, in Christmas Shachamita, Lafi the Nusach of the Alter Rebbe, you got what's called the Abba Mises, after. So it could be you guys say, well, that's how the Shikoya, by the time we get that far, we're already dropping on our feet, or the Shikoya. But there's a whole in the four. You've seen the whole four mises there, the Christmas. In the up-to-date Siddurim, it's all printed. And there's a whole sort of funny old thing that happened when the original Tehillas Hashem. It's not the Lubavitcher Siddur. The original Siddur Tehillas Hashem wasn't printed by Lubavitch. It's the original Siddur, the Alter Rebbe Siddur, the Siddur Tehillas Mikol Hashem. And then there were other Siddurim which were called, later it was called the Siddur Torah Oyer, that was printed early in the years of the Rebbe Shab. And those are the original Lubavitcher Siddurim. But in the time of the war, there was never when certain kutzes of Lubavitch Chassidim, and I didn't have any Siddurim. There was a Yid that he printed, I think it was a Polish Yid. He printed up a thing that he called Siddur Tehillas Hashem Al-Pi Nusach HaRizal. And that he meant Al Pi Nusach HaRizal from Chabad. When he saw the Christmas Shachamit, he couldn't figure what notice. So he was in the opinion that somebody must have put in there things Al Pi Kabbalah or something. So he took most of the Christmas Shachamit and printed it at the back. You ever seen the real early Tehillas Hashems? All the pieces that with the Ava Mises and the Al Chait and other, they're all printed at the back of the Siddur. It was really hard to find them because he didn't really. He was an Elchayim, a finer Yid, but he didn't realize that he thought that there wasn't shy to the ordinary Seder, the Christian. Because in other Siddurim it doesn't appear in the club. So he put it all over at the back. Now for years it was left like that. They printed some really nice Siddur Tehillas and it was still at the back. So there was it sort of occurred somewhere along the line that I think the Rebbe might have even said something about it at one stage. But if you're already printing and you Siddur Tehillas Hashem to make the Seder right, put all those things that were stooped over to the back, put them in the right place. There was several other Inyonim, but he didn't say he put them over the back.
Someone told me that one the Siddurim, the Tehillas Hashem, that Friedrich laid out the printing for. Is that true?
There's a Siddur Torah. The Friedrich Rabbi, as far as I know, he didn't lay out the Siddur Tehillas Hashem. That's a Siddur Torah. That was the Rebbe Rashab. So if you look up in the Siddur Torah era, then of course the Christmas Shachamita carries everything on it. It's over there in the Daled Mizi, it's written out there the Kabbalah, supposed to be Kabbalah on yourself to the Daled Mrs. President, because maybe not familiar with the whole, that itself requires the whole husband, whole inyan. So it's written over there that you have to say that I take on myself if I was poigim, in the Ois Yud Al Yidei, if I was poigim in the Yudah, the Eberster's name, Al Yidei Bittul Krishma. I was Mevatel Krishma. And then the whole thing over this and this. We're not getting involved in all the details over there. We see that the Inyan from Kriyat Shema is totally in the Yud of the Shem Havaya. And why and what, that's a whole big beer. There's really an amazing beer, all these aces of the Shem Havaya and all these different mitzvahs are shayat to the from the Friedrich Rebbe in the year Toshin Zion. So a Maimon, I think it's from Sukkot or from Shmini Atzeres, from Chol HaMoed. A Maimon, he's mazbid of all the protein with the different things which are mentioned over there, that whole nusach of there. And how the Inyan from Krishma shayat the Yud from the Shem Havaya and Tefillin, he brings this Ois Kei. When you go down, then you say, Aram Kabbalah Him Gamti be Ois Kei, Roshina Shal Shem Havaya, Bebittel Tefillin, and this and this, and you go further, then you get into the Shem Adne, and you guys are not familiar with all things. Well, maybe you are, but you're a little bit not shy what you really, what's being Oisik, that's the Inyan of the Kabbalah Sa'ava Mises B'Shas Krishma. So we see clearly over there that certain mitzvahs are connected with certain oisis in the Shema, certain oisis in the Shema Havaya, and one in its own. You can be poigim. You can be poigim in those inyanim. Alidei bittul mitzvahs kriyashma, or bittul mitzvahs tefillin, or bittul mitzvahs tefillah, and then later he brings in for tzitzit. So everybody says, "Well, I'm bittul mitzvahs krishma. Well, I don't read krishma. I'm a fatal the mitzvah of other type, or bittul mitzvahs tefillin. Well, I mentioned about tefillin, or but he didn't daven here mitzvahs tefillin. He davened to tell us what do you mean that you're fatal. So that's the Friedrich Rebbe. The Friedrich Rebbe goes away. It's an amazing hemshel he's got over there. It's based on a kettle from the Rebbe Rashab, but it's more, so he opens it out into more detail, the Friedrich Rebbe. And he deals over there and he says how you can take a read Krishma and everything, but you were Mevatel Krishma. You weren't really into the Krishma the way it's meant to be. That's called Bittul. But he said it doesn't mean that the person was Mevatel Krishma in the simple sense. What it means was that he wasn't into the Aveda from Krishma the way it's meant to be. And the whole tshuva from Krishma Mitzvah is become the Aveda, not the proper approach to the mitzvahs, not their actual doing them or otherwise. Kimura. I want to say Kimura. L'chera. That's the way it comes out. If you look up over there, you'll see that it's written Krishma Bo'is Yud and Tefillin Bo'is Kei Ukahai Gavna B'Kol HaMitzvah. And like it is, and therefore the Zohar Kodesh says that the other mitzvahs hang on like grapes. In other words, that Krishma is a mitzvah klali. Tefillin is a mitzvah klali. Tefillah is another mitzvah klali. The Alter Rebbe must be in Pasha Bolach, in Pasha Lo'yibit, in the Maimar Lo'yibit of in Biyankim. Over there, the Rebbe's must be the whole inyan of how Tefillah is really only, according to most poskim, it's only a mitzvah d'Rabbanan, and yet nonetheless it's mentioned as one of the mitzvahs kloliyot. Well, all those mitzvahs are mitzvahs kloliyot. They're all general mitzvahs. Other mitzvahs come out of those mitzvahs kloliyot. What can you do with it? The Gemara says, "Hukshe kol ha'Torah kula litfilin." The whole Torah is compared to the Tefillin. Because all the mitzvahs are somehow or another linked with Tefillin, the same Krishma. And they write that that's how all the other mitzvahs develop out of these main mitzvahs, and they're all like grapes. But they hang on in the clusters, the oasis, v'chulu. So he said all of that is the Inyan for mitzvahs Havaya. And that's all in the areas which are shy to Kelim. And we'll see more about that as we go. Inyan for mitzvah Isoi, but that's the mitzvahs how they are in the Atzmas, not how they're shy to any Inyan, Giluim, not shy to any Matwege, in the Shtaushelet, not Yud and not Kei, and they're all mamish, including in the Atzmas.
Oh, can I ask a question? you said previously that it's specifically the Eved Pashut that makes a deal with Tachtonim, and not the Eved Man. So, as we understand, the Mashiach told Baal Shem Tov that he should spread his well springs to everybody. Seemingly, what we learn now is his well springs. So it seems from what we learn, we want to have these kavanas and everything else. So we learn how to be an Eved Ne'eman, but that's not what we should be doing. We want to make a deal with Tachtonim. So why is it that we just not state Pshutim and we learn?
That's a very, very good question. That's a very good question. And I'm going to admit that we really to answer that question, we should have a bit of mashke. There should be a bit of a tziddish if I bring it, then we'd be able to answer that question. And if I had koyach, it would be good. Unfortunately, I don't. But just very briefly, just one that it gets back to the question of Yoram in the middle of this year. That maybe we're supposed to be Eved Ne'emanim and then go back to Avodim Shut. So I said that, generally speaking, I didn't want to go for that. But the truth of the matter is that there is a certain aspect of that in Tomchei Tmimim. And then we'll find that the whole inyan in Tomchei Tmimim was to show us all the pnimis of the Torah, and yet you got these different memorim from the Rebbeim, particularly from the Rebbe Rashab. He's as you might say, a very central point in this whole doctrine, where he says when you do the mitzvah, you can do just with poshet and absolutely. If you look in Ayin Beis, there's a whole piece in Ayin Beis, very amazing piece. Well, it's mashma over there that in order for you to be able to do the mitzvahs mamish, you've got to first of all know something about the pnimiyas. You've got to be a bit of an Eved Ne'eman. And then if you have a little bit of a shmek tabik of the Eved Ne'eman, then you're able to realize what it means to be an Eved Poshet. And then you're able to do the Eved in the Eved Poshet better. But if you don't have any knowledge, then you're an Eved Poshet. And that's not bad. I'll tell you that's not bad. But that's not what the Rebbe wanted, and that's not what the Baal Shem Tov wanted. He wanted that we should be Avodim Shutim with a certain time. Now if you look in the Kuntres Eitz Chaim, famous the Rebbe Rashab gave out, and you see that the Rebbe Rashab says over there clearly, he says that Kriyishma is Yehudi Law. And Baruch Shem is Yehudi Tator. Come over in Shara Yehud. And he says that even if Krishma is Yehudi Law, it's only shot to certain Amitis, it's only shot to certain high Nishon. What are we all doing reading Krishma? What are we learning about something that's not really shot to? So he said, in order for you to keep Krishma, you may be shy only to Yehudi Tator, even in the Krishma. You shot to a lower level in the Yichud with Krishma represent, or in order that should be the way it should be, what you can really do, you got to know about the higher part of it. Once you know about the higher part of it, then you can bring it into and make the lower part, it also makes the lower part very different. And that's the secret of Torah. That's the answer.